Throughout NBA history, we've seen some really great teams that feature some of the greatest players to ever play the game. But only a select few of those players and a select few of those teams can say they were a part of an actual NBA dynasty. And to be considered a dynasty in my mind, you must win at least 3 championships, and you must be competing for championships for a minimum of 5 seasons. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through how every great NBA dynasty finally came to an end, and after that, I'm going to rank these dynasties on how dominant and how successful they were in their eras. So first up, we have Bill Russell's Celtics from the 1960s, and Bill Russell would play 13 NBA seasons, winning a championship in 11 of those 13 seasons. And at one point, Bill Russell would lead the Celtics to 8 straight championships. And his Celtics team, it definitely defined the 60s, and they were the overwhelming dominant super team. And this Celtics dynasty, it would come to an end in the 1969 season, and during this season, the Celtics were in a mediocre 48-34 record, and they finished 4th in the Eastern Conference, and they really weren't even expected to make the conference finals. But through the leadership of Bill Russell, this Celtics team, they would find a way to actually make the NBA Finals, where they would be matched up against the Los Angeles Lakers. Now this final series, it would go the full 7 games, and the Lakers had home court advantage, so Game 7, it was played in LA. And there's a very famous story of how the Lakers owner, he was so confident they were going to win, he actually put championship balloons in the rafters, and Bill Russell and the Celtics team, they actually saw this before the game. And that move by the Lakers owner, that would prove to be a costly mistake, as Bill Russell and the Celtics, they became ultra motivated to win that Game 7 in LA. And this Celtics team, they were led by Bill Russell and Sam Jones, 2 players who were 34 and 35 years old and were planning on retiring after this season. And in this game, Bill Russell and the Celtics, they would find a way to win the championship and beat the Lakers by 2 points. And I'd like to point out, Bill Russell at this time, he was a player coach, so he not only was coaching the team, he was also playing in games. I think that's something that gets overlooked in NBA history, and I don't think people give Bill Russell the proper respect that he actually deserves. And I think Bill Russell's career ending, I think it had the perfect storyline. He went out on top winning a championship against his rival Jerry West and the Los Angeles Lakers. And after Bill Russell's Celtics dynasty ended, it would be a full decade before we'd actually see another dynasty emerge. And it just happened that these 2 dynasties, they happened at the exact same time, and they're the exact same teams that played in the 1969 finals. And that is Magic Johnson's Lakers and Larry Bird's Boston Celtics. And Larry Bird coming in, he was seen as the next great player in the NBA, and he definitely delivered on the high expectations he had coming into Boston, delivering 3 NBA championships and making 5 NBA finals. But Larry Bird's dynasty, it would slowly crumble and come to an end after he himself, he suffered severe back injuries from basically 1987 all the way till he retired in 1992. And Kevin McHale, he played through severe injuries like a broken foot that would ultimately lead to not only his slow decline, but also the slow decline of the once dominant Boston Celtics. Now this Celtics team, their biggest rival during this time period, it was Magic Johnson's Lakers, and Magic during this time period, he was able to win 5 championships and make 9 NBA finals. And unlike Larry Bird's Celtics, he was actually able to win back-to-back championships in 1987 and 1988. And Magic's dynasty, it would come to an abrupt end as he was diagnosed with the HIV virus that effectively ended his career and the Lakers dynasty. Now, right before Magic was diagnosed with the HIV virus, he actually made the NBA Finals in 1981, where he'd be matched up against Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And little did Magic know, this was actually the passing of the torch and the beginning of another dominant dynasty that would be Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls. And as everyone knows, the Bulls would win 3 straight championships from 1991 to 1993. And what makes this Bulls dynasty kind of unique and different from every dynasty in NBA history is the fact that their star player Michael Jordan, he retired in the middle of a dominant dynasty. And to this day, there's lots of hypotheticals thrown out about how many championships they actually could have won in a row if Jordan didn't retire. And if you ask me, I don't think the Bulls could have won 8 straight championships. I think that's too taxing on the body, and mentally being in the spotlight that long and having high expectations every year, I think it's near impossible to do. I don't think Jordan's Bulls, they would have won 8 straight. But as everyone knows, the Bulls would win 6 championships, repeating twice, and they would define the 90s and define dominance for the modern era of basketball. And I'm pretty sure everyone watching this video is also watching the Last Dance documentary that really chronicles the Bulls' decline, and there's lots of factors that go into that. As you guys know, Scottie Pippen, he was on a 7-year, $18 million contract, and he actually demanded a trade from the Bulls, as him and Jerry Krause, they had absolutely no relationship. And the hatred for Jerry Krause, that wasn't limited to just Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson, they also despised Jerry Krause. And Jerry Krause, he really was a snake, and he just did some really petty things, like not inviting Phil Jackson to his daughter's wedding when he invited everyone else from the team, including Tim Floyd, a guy who was there to replace Phil Jackson. He has the infamous quote of saying organizations win championships, kind of downplaying the players' impact and trying to give more credit to the management and himself. So in general, Jerry Krause, he was a very selfish guy who was looking for a lot of the spotlight and thought he deserved more credit than the players and the coaches. And when the Bulls actually made the finals, they were essentially on their last legs. They were the oldest team in the NBA. Dennis Rodman, he had been benched in the Eastern Conference Finals. Scottie Pippen, he was getting cortisone shots in his back. And Michael Jordan, he was 35 years old. So this wasn't some prime Bulls team that was super athletic and healthy. And they actually probably shouldn't have even made the finals. And they should have lost the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. But Michael Jordan, he would will this Bulls team to victory. And he would have the most iconic shot in NBA history. And after that shot, the Bulls dynasty, it would come to an end, as the very next season, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, and Phil Jackson, they would all be gone, and the Bulls would go 13-37 with Tim Floyd as their coach. So the Bulls, much like Bill Russell's Celtics, they went out on a high note, going out as the champions on their last legs. And after Jordan retired, it wouldn't take long for another dynasty to emerge, and there's actually two dynasties emerging at the very same time, and that would be Tim Duncan Spurs and the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. Now, first off, I want to look at Tim Duncan Spurs, as they would win a championship their very next season, 1999. And a very unique thing about Tim Duncan in that Spurs dynasty is the fact that they were able to win championships with basically 3 different teams over a span of 15 years. In 1999, Duncan won with a duo of him and David Robinson. In 03, 05, and 07, it was Duncan as the main guy, with his main supporting cast being Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. And in 2014, he won playing team basketball with Kawhi Leonard emerging as a young star. And some people are hesitant to call the Spurs team a dynasty because they never won back-to-back championships, but in my personal opinion, I don't define dynasties like that. I think the Spurs, they lasted over 15 years, they were able to win 5 championships, and they were able to make the finals 6 times. I think that perfectly encapsulates what a dynasty is. They had the longevity, and they had the dominance, winning 5 championships. And if I had to pinpoint a time when the Spurs dynasty officially ended, I would say it's when Kawhi Leonard was traded to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for DeMar DeRozan. And I think Kawhi Leonard, he was being groomed as being the next guy to kind of carry the torch for that Spurs dynasty. But with all the controversy of him and the medical staff disagreeing on how long he should be out, that created a lot of tension, and that ultimately led to Kawhi Leonard being traded to the Raptors. So the Spurs dynasty, it definitely had a great run, going all the way from the 2000s up into the 2010s. And the other team that was competing with the Spurs throughout this entire decade, that was the Los Angeles Lakers. And much like the Spurs, they kind of had 2 separate dominant teams, and that would be the Shaq and Kobe Lakers in the 2000s, and that would be the Kobe Lakers in the late 2000s. And the Lakers dynasty, it would be similar to the Spurs. I would say the Lakers were more dominant, but I think both these dynasties, they kind of had gap years where they didn't really dominate, but they came back and ultimately won championships, with the Lakers dominating the early 2000s and the late 2000s, and the Spurs being sprinkled in between. And if I had to pick a specific point of when this Lakers dynasty finally came to an end, I would say it was in the 2013 season, and this is the year the Lakers acquired Dwight Howard and Steve Nash, and they were looking to extend Kobe's career and looking to win him a 6th championship. And as we know, this would be a failed experiment, as Steve Nash and Dwight Howard, they would never fully be healthy, and this team would never live up to their full expectations. And after Kobe's Lakers dynasty came to an end, the next dynasty that would emerge was the Golden State Warriors. And this Warriors team, they would really have a huge impact on the way basketball was played for the next 5+ years. And I think Steph Curry during this time, he was one of the most influential players in NBA history. And as everyone knows, after the 2016 finals, Kevin Durant, he would join the Golden State Warriors. And Golden State was already a really great team, but Kevin Durant joining them, that basically put them on steroids, and they would win 2 straight championships over the Cleveland Cavaliers. In this past NBA Finals, the Warriors, they would lose to Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, and during this series, Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant, they would go down with devastating injuries, and only a few months later, Kevin Durant, he would decide to leave Golden State and go to Brooklyn to join Kyrie Irving and the Nets. And I think many people, they kind of declared that this was the end of the Golden State dynasty, and I think it's too early to say that this dynasty came to an end. I still believe in Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and even Draymond Green, and I think this Warriors team, I definitely think they can make it back to the finals in the near future. it is the only team I can't say that their dynasty has come to a definitive end. So if you ask me to rank these 7 dynasties, at the 7th spot, I would have the Curry Warriors. And as I just finished saying, I think this Warriors team, I don't think they're completely done. And I think Curry, I think he could take this dynasty up a level. But for right now, I have Curry's Warriors at the 7th spot. At the 6th spot, I have Larry Bird's 80s Celtics. And I think winning 3 championships, I think is a tremendous accomplishment. And I think the teams they face in the Eastern Conference and the NBA Finals, they're definitely some top tier competition. So I have Bird's Celtics at number 6. At number 5, I have Duncan Spurs. And Duncan Spurs, as I said before, they lasted roughly 15 years, winning 5 championships during that span. And Tim Duncan, he was the leader of all 5 of those championship teams. And he was really able to sustain a dynasty throughout his entire career. At number 4, I have Kobe's Lakers dynasty, and I think you could argue this dynasty, it deserves to be higher on this list, but I think the gap period between Kobe's first three-peat and his back-to-back championships, I think there was a huge dip in how competitive that team was, and I have Kobe's dynasty ranked as number 4. And at number 3, I have another Lakers dynasty, and that is Magic Johnson's 1980s Lakers. And this Lakers dynasty, it lasted roughly 11 years, and Magic, he made the finals 9 times during that stretch, while winning 5 championships, and there was no period throughout that run where Magic's Lakers, they took a dip or dropped off, and they really weren't competitive, or at least competing for championships. And at the 2 spot, I have Michael Jordan's Bulls, and this Bulls team, as we said before, they three-peated twice, absolutely dominating the early and late 90s. And at the number 1 spot, I don't think this should be any surprise, Bill Russell's Boston Celtics, they have the most dominant dynasty, winning 11 championships in 13 years, including 8 straight championships at one point. So that is my rankings of the 7 dynasties throughout NBA history, and I hope you guys learned something about how each of those dynasties kind of fell off or how they ended. And if you have any questions about how I rank these dynasties and why I put one over the other, feel free to ask me in the comments. But besides that, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. I'll see you guys next time.